Sound good? Yeah. Right? Is my voice as high and nasally as usual? That's the microphone. When I don't have it, it's like it's all right. It's feeling good. So my name is Graham. I am based in Chicago, which right now is it's under about 1.5 feet of snow. It's about 21 degrees. So needless to say, not only are you guys nicer and more beautiful than Chicagoans, but the weather here is a little better as well. So thank you guys. All right. But let's talk about why we're here, right? Why are we here? Because we're here for a good cause. Whether it's a table in a fancy restaurant, a table here under the stars, or a table inside, a a place where you're feeding the homeless and people that need those kind of meals, everything great in life happens around the table. And so that's what I think we're doing. We're coming back to that. You guys are helping people with that, and obviously the source and what they're doing, and it's been amazing to see the chefs and the team. And just so you know, the dish that I'm going to do, I'm going to demonstrate. I'll show you kind of what you're about to have. But there were almost 35 people in the last year that have been brought in and trained to go and get a career and a job in the food service world through the source. And what they're doing, it's so amazing that I want to do something similar back in Chicago when I get back there, because it's really eye-opening. And at the end of the day, all I know how to, I dropped out of high school, I started as a dishwasher, all I know how to do is work with my hands and cook, and to see something where, you're really getting something tangible out of it, and seeing people be able to live their own lives and go on their journey and cook, and then excite people by putting food on a plate, and it just keeps growing and growing. And I think tonight there were 17 people in the kitchen that helped in every step. So the dish I'm doing, again, maybe it's my creation, but the endive was chopped by somebody back there. The pancetta was cooked off by somebody here. I was searing salmon off back there with my new best friends. So we're all cooking, we're all a part of it, and so thank you. So that said, I'm going to go ahead and start getting going. Is that cool? All right. Can you guys kind of hear me still? Yeah, thank goodness. This is the part of the game where we see if we can get these things to turn on. Yeah. All right. We need our buddy here. Faye, hi. Can you see if our friend Camilo is here? We seem to have no electricity up here right now. That means you get more of my comedy act. Yeah. All right. Well, let me tell you the dish that you guys are going to be having. So it's a salmon BLT. So the idea that I like to do when I'm cooking is taking things that you've had before and putting a little twist on them. So if you break it down, salmon, bacon, lettuce, tomato. How do you turn it into something new and exciting? So we're doing the crispy skin salmon, right? Wild salmon. And then for the bread, it's a piece of brioche that's been sauteed in butter. We have power. Oh, goodness. All right, I'll come back to that.
Good job.
All right, so what we were saying that we're going to do, bacon, lettuce, tomato, we're going to do pancetta. I'm going to make a pancetta vinaigrette. So we're going to render the pancetta. It's going to let that fat come out, and instead of an olive oil or something else, we're going to be using that fat emulsified with a little vinegar, a little garlic, onion, things of that nature, and that's going to be the vinaigrette part. And then the salad itself is endive that's been tossed with a little bit of herbs, some of the crispy pancetta, and the tomatoes, which I'm going to show you. What's really cool is confit. I don't know if you guys know confit, duck confit, things like that. We're taking the tomatoes and poaching them gently in olive oil with some garlic and herbs. And what's cool is you can use the, not just the tomatoes when they're done, but you can use the oil to stew and do something else with it. Cook with it. It's infused with all those flavors. And that's really it. So very simple, very delicious. And I'm going to go ahead and get started on it real quick. Oh my gosh, you guys are killing me. Chef Faye. Show us power.
It's like you're in the mountains on Top Chef.
Oh my gosh. We do that just to screw with them every time. We know they'll never be able to make anything.
Bury it in the ground and cook a cake.
That's right. What can you do?
No, I'm It's my favorite.
So what questions or comments do you guys have while I'm getting stuff going? Anything? Nothing?
Do you really like eggs that much?
Eggs? Oh yeah, I love eggs. You like eggs? Eggs are great, aren't they?
Like 2 meals a day.
Does anyone have a smaller chefing knife I can borrow? No? Okay, I'll use this one.
I know, yeah.
I am wearing still. I am wearing.
Tomatoes, garlic, olive oil, salt, pepper.
I know, I would.
All right, so real quick, a little trick that we do in the kitchen. You can divide your herbs into like two worlds, right? You got like your soft, delicate herbs, and then your heartier herbs. Heartier ones obviously stand up to cooking more. So if you're roasting meats and chicken and pieces of fish, anything of that nature, thyme, rosemary, sage can hold up to that. Things like basil, parsley, chervil, dill, those things are still almost alive. They're very vibrant green, so what happens? It's like cooking a piece of asparagus or a green bean forever. The longer it stews, it just tastes like dead vegetable nastiness. So you can steep it in something for a few minutes and then take it out. So just, don't say I didn't ever teach you.
I don't know.
For which one?
Now we're cooking. I got about an hour battery life.
I just had him come and switch out the ice water for just vodka. So now we're going to really get through this night. So we're going to learn a lot of new things. Mostly about me and maybe Gordon or Tom or Padma or whatever you want.
Now we're cooking.
Yes, kind of. This is like, now we're cooking with like electric and a butane burner, so it's kind of like a science class. So who knows what's going to happen? All right, so when you have salmon, the thing is you want to make sure that the skin stays crispy. It's very hard because what makes salmon so yummy is that there's a ton of fat in it, right? You got your omega-3 and things that make you healthy, but we don't care about that. We care about food being really yummy, and that's what we're all about right here. So you take the fish and you score the skin. You don't want to like cut through the entire muscle. You want to score the skin. That's going to help release some of the fat that's under the skin, which is going to make it crispy. That's the whole idea there. So, yes,
What kind of salmon are you cooking?
we are using our wild salmon from Washington. So, yay for Washington. Anybody like Washington? I was born there actually, but I don't remember much. My dad was in the Navy for 30 years, so I've been to all 50 states, and these are actually all the places that I grew up in. So, but my favorite is Florida. I feel like I'm part of this town now. Yes. All right. Just so I want you guys to be able to hear this sassiness. That's what a hot olive oil bath sounds like. Okay. Turn it this way. I feel like Billy Joel or something. Alright, turn this down. Salmon. And I'm going to take some of the vinaigrette that we're making over here.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I find that sometimes I get my olive oil too hot and then it smokes. Like, when do you know when to go back a little?
So that's a good question. We're talking about, when you put something in the pan, it starts to smoke, right? Like olive oil, they call this a smoke point, right? Sounds really fancy. It basically means when a thing is going to like blow up in the kitchen. So if you take a pan, butter the reason butter is so delicious and it caramelizes and it gets nutty and your beurre noisette brown butter is because there's so much natural sugar in there because there's milk solids. So if you clarify butter and you take off the top, the skimmings, that's what you're removing. And the reason you do that is so that you can heat that butter up to a higher temperature now. Does that make sense? Throw in whole butter, it's going to burn at about 320. Throw in clarified butter, it'll burn at maybe 400. Olive oil is like 450. Grapeseed oil is like 800. So if you're really nervous about cooking and setting off all the fire alarms, like spend that extra buck and get some grapeseed oil. Because everyone says olive oil. Olive oil is great to like finish a dish, drizzle over something, toss with your vegetables lightly, but don't get the smoking hot pan and pour a bunch of olive oil on it. Not gonna work. But that's what you do when you cook for 20 years, like for a couple hundred people a day. It's not something that everyone just knows. So don't judge yourself too much. that, you got this. So a lot of times you see people, you know, trying to chop all their herbs and look like they're really busy. It's so nice and gentle. Nature gives you these beautiful little things. So like, just tear them at the last second so that they still have all those beautiful oils and the flavor of that herb coming through. We made an aioli with the olive oil, so that's just, again, egg yolk, olive oil, a little Dijon that's whipped, that's underneath the brioche that you have there. Some of the confit tomatoes. So what's cool is you can warm them up and do them in 15 minutes. You can put them on a super low temp or put them at like 200 degrees in the oven for an hour and a half. As long as they're covered with olive oil, and you can throw in all the herbs, garlic, anything that you want, stew them in there, and then they'll last in there for like 2 weeks. So oil helps preserve them. You can see I also try to cook the salmon as long as I can on one side to render that fat and get it crispy, and then flip it over the last second. So I keep thinking that there's like a big camera on me. There really isn't. So you can see my fingers. That's the salmon there. That's the skin. Top it with some more of the pancetta. Tear a couple little herbs. Just in time, and now we're good. So I think that's pretty much it. So again, you have the aioli, you've got some toasted brioche, a little salad of endive with some herbs, then the crispy skin salmon topped with pancetta vinaigrette, and then the tomato confit. So good, tasty, awesome. Is Chef Joe out there? Yeah, let's get that guy. So you guys should challenge yourself and think real fast what your favorite dish is or family dish and how you would switch it up. So like my mom only knew how to make one thing that was kind of edible, and that was she's not here so we can talk about her. So it's the beef stroganoff, but instead of egg noodle and cream of mushroom soup and ground beef, I decided to do like braised short rib for 8 hours with gnocchi and wild mushroom and, you know, whipped creme fresh. So you close your eyes and you still taste it, and it's got all those memories and things coming back, but it's been elevated and updated. So that's the next one coming, yes. Yes. How's everything been so far? We're having fun? Good. Chef Joe. How are you, sir? Good. This is my new buddy guy. Everyone, this is Chef Joe. He's been doing a ton of the work. Does an amazing job with the source. I mean, breakfast, lunch, dinner. And I remember, you know, I was being told earlier, one of the great lines is that taking the soup out of the soup kitchen, you know, and making it something where you respect across the board, from cooking it to eating it to all being around and being the same at the end of the day. But anyway, for everything that you do, I just wanted to Chef Joe, get you this book. So I signed it, personalized it to you, and anytime you have any question or anything I can ever do to help going forward, you let me know, alright? Thank you, brother. Alright guys, enjoy. I'll be around all night if you want to hang out and chat or do anything. Cool? Let's drop in the mic.
heard it's an amazing place, though. It's got
We bought
history,
this
you
like
know.
crazy rocks last year.
I love it. I love it. I can just sit there and just look